Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Of course, everybody wants to save every life they can. But the question is, towards what end ultimately? Are there ways that we can thread the middle here to allow that there are going to be deaths? And they're going to be deaths no matter what. And if we can do things to keep people in the mode of wearing masks, of wearing gloves, of distancing where appropriate, we've got to let some of these folks get back to work, because if we don't, we're going to destroy the American way of life in these families. And it will be years and years before we can recover.
Is he right? Of course he's right. Chris Christie's right. People are looking around and saying, did Sweden, which numbers look awful compared to their neighbors in some ways, did they get a head start of where we all have to go? Did they pay the upfront price in a way that we're all going to end up having to pay, to where the numbers you see in Sweden are going to essentially be similar to a lot of other places? And at the end of the day, are they going to emerge from it not having destroyed their economy and their way of life, and the rest of the world outside of China, who has a lot of splaining to do, did every one of us maybe jump the gun? And it's horrible to say, right? Because you're talking about human beings. Sweden looks at death, and a lot of European countries look at death in a much different way. It's very businesslike in some ways, quality of life, but then there isn't any quality of life. And when there isn't any quality of life, they kind of look at it as this was, you know, the way that I think Anders Teller, who's the guy that runs everything, has been talking about this. And if I got his name wrong, I apologize, sir. Is that a lot of the people that have died, a majority of them in the elderly community inside of homes, probably, if for a lack of a better term, I'm paraphrasing here, said they were on borrowed time. The average person that's dying over there is dying at 83, and I believe 81 is their average life expectancy when it comes to the older generation. So they've even outlived what the average was. And they recognize they made some mistakes. Every country has. Yes, we've made some mistakes. Italy made tons of mistakes. France has made mistakes. We'll touch on France in a minute. The UK, every single country. We sit here and we hammer Trump all day and this partisan BS that none of us need, right? We want to find the solution. What exactly is that solution? What if, the end of the day, the solution is we fix the first problem, and let's remember what that was.
I think it's important for us to remember the purpose and the goal behind all of these restrictions that we put in place in March. We need to remember those goals in the first place. The goal was never zero new infections. The goal was to flatten the curve. The goal was to slow down the rate of infection so that we wouldn't overwhelm the hospitals, so that too many people didn't get sick too fast and as a result overwhelm our hospital capacity. And now the goal should be, how do we reopen? How much can we reopen in this new normal without overwhelming our hospitals?
And that's what our goal was originally. It was not to stop it. It was to slow the spread down, to give all of our healthcare and medical professionals the opportunity to stock up and be ready. That was the goal. Is goal achieved? I think most of the country, a lot of that goal has been achieved. Not all of the country. The problem is New York started in the way that you would think, well, that's what it should have looked like, where we had everything, and New York started already on fire. California did a good job, still does, even though there's going to be new infections. There's going to be new infections. There is going to be people that will pass away. Some of them will be young, and it'll be a shock. By and large, most of them, a majority, I would say well into the 60s and 70s, and maybe in some cases, in some states, 80% of them will be elderly people in places like nursing homes, long-term care facilities, or people with underlying conditions that the flu could have potentially caused them to struggle and potentially die. Now we're in a situation where we look around and we say, how do we get out of this? A lot of Americans are uncomfortable going out, even with everything that's out there, right? We're trying to do everything we possibly can when it comes to social distancing, when it comes to all of the things that we're doing from the mask to this, that, and the other. With all of that being said, even with that, people are hesitant to go out. New poll says about 80% of Americans are worried. But what's the alternative? Because we can't stay in forever. You have some people say they're not going to go out until there's a vaccine. That's like 20%. You've got the extremes, or people who are going to run into this thing head on. And then you've got the other side of it, who are people who aren't going to come out unless there is a proven vaccine. That's insane. It is. The economy is something that people are focusing on because it's the one thing we all participate in. Regardless if there's a pandemic, an epidemic, regardless if there's a good time or a bad time, we're all participating in the economy. And you look around, and while they're slowly opening things up, you may get a rush here or there, but it's that second wave of people, your loyal customers. Those are the ones you need over and over again. Like I talked about with travel yesterday. Here's the beauty of travel. There's going to be a barrage at first once you start to let people travel, because people are like, hey, $110 to go to London? Hell yeah, I'll do it. But after that, after those people that are willing to try something crazy and get into, which it's not crazy, but to say to themselves, screw it, I'll get into a cylindrical tube with somebody and I'm not really bothered about what the outcome is. I'll wear a mask, I'll do all I can, but I can't pass up a deal like this. It's the other customers. And that's going to be a slow slog.
Considering their razor-thin profit margins, many restaurants can't afford to open only a quarter of their dining rooms. Besides, customers aren't exactly clamoring to get in.
Maybe 6 months before people start going back out.
Kanan Shaw is manager of an Austrian restaurant called Arpeggios. He thinks recovery will be slow.
Probably until next year before things get back to normal, maybe even longer than that.
And for some restaurants, that might be too late.
Yeah, might be. Talked to a couple restaurant owners who said they're not even going to think about opening. They can hold out through the summer. But fourth quarter, they probably need to be open. And if they can't open by New Year, they're done. And think about this. They're talking about this thing being what? Seasonal. Seasonal. So that means that we may get a respite just because this thing, much like the flu, will come and go. And just when we think we're getting ourselves back on our feet and we've weathered the storm, all of a sudden it pops up again. And that's the question that nobody answers, no matter how many times you asked it. Yesterday, here in Arizona, where Trump will be later on today, it'll be interesting to see if he wears a mask. We'll talk about that in a bit. But one of the things that we asked the governor, what are you going to do when not only there's a spike, but the potential of a second wave or first wave or continuous wave, whatever this is, and the numbers spike? Because business owners who've already weathered this storm have thought to themselves, they can get through this now. But they can't get through another lockdown for a month or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. They cannot do it. What do you do then? How do you handle it then? And that question is going to be asked over and over to every governor across this country, and watch the way they dance around it. Nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news. And that goes two ways. Whether you say, look, we've put ourselves in a position to get ourselves ready for a second wave, and that includes making sure our hospitals are stocked up and ready for everything that may be coming at them. But if there is a second wave, we're going to deal with it in a much different way, because the first one was about flattening the curve. The second one will be about withstanding this and learning to live with it while we try to figure out the best method to take it on medically, whether that's a therapeutic or two, and eventually, yes, hopefully, a vaccine. But those things are what business owners and a lot of people in the economy are terrified of, which is the second wave, as they talk about. Yes, the next wave, the second wave, the continuous wave. What do governments across this country do when there is a spike? Because there will be a spike. And you can't win if you're a governor. You say we're going to shut it down again and go all in. You're going to get the small businesses and everybody freaking out. You say we're going to advise our people that social distancing is the best thing to do. Make sure you continually wash your hands and when applicable, wear a mask. But unless you're over the age of, unless you're under the age of, if you're 65 and you're in pretty good health, or 60, you got to get out there and live your life. And those are the chances you're going to have to take, and be aware about your surroundings. Because what that's going to say to people is, oh, you're sacrificing grandma and grandpa. And if you go and you say everybody's going to go in, a younger generation is going to say, so grandma and grandpa, we're going to do all we can to save them, and you're willing to destroy our lives. It's a battle, and you have to make that choice. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. My pillow. Promo code is Benson. Just want you guys to know that. So here's what they're doing. Right now, Mike Lindell, he is flip-flop, flippity-blop-blop. He just comes on in and says, hey, everybody, we're going to take the production line we're going to flip it. And we're going to make PPEs for our healthcare workers, masks and whatnot. So let's get rid of the stuff we're doing right now, and let's sell it all out. Buy one, get one free on everything. And we'll make these for right now. And that's what he's done. So right now you get a BOGO. Buy one, get one free on everything they have. It is amazing. You go there, you buy one, you get one free. You get a 60-day money-back guarantee. It's made in these here United States, and a 10-year warranty. So you get a new radio listener special. Type in code Benson. You get the buy one, get one free. On the way out, if you order Mike Lindell's book, and if you like a rags to riches story with all kinds of craziness, included just lots of drug use and issues that he had, get his book. He's going to ship everything for free and give you a $25 gift card. It's simple. It's easy. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
When the president visits an N95 mask factory today in Arizona, will he be wearing a mask? Last week, Vice President Pence was criticized for not wearing one at the Mayo Clinic. Pence now says he should have worn a mask. President Trump saying, yeah, he's willing to.
I'd have no problem wearing a mask. I don't know. I'm supposed to make a speech. I just don't know. Should I speak in a mask? You're going to have to tell me if that's politically correct.
After his stop at the factory, the president will return to the White House.
It's going to be interesting to see if he wears a mask, because he'll try one on. This is where I'm going with this today, because this is going to become a story. He's going to try one on, but I don't think he'll wear a mask. I just don't. If he was visiting like a hospital, I could see that. I just don't see him wearing a mask. I've got to be honest with you guys. I think he'll try one on and say, look at these. These are great. Look at all these amazing. Wow, look at that. And then he'll be like, I got to give a speech. And he'll give a speech. And people are worried about how many people are going to show up. It's going to be chaos and craziness. It's a possibility, but I don't foresee that happening. But it is going to be interesting to see how long he has a mask on, because Pence got hammered for that, and then he wore a mask, and I turned to everybody and said, it's not a good look for leaders. It's not. It's not how you want to see it. Like, if Superman had to wear a mask, you'd be like, this guy's goofy, unless that was your shtick. But they don't cover up their nose, right? Like, unless you're Bane, but that was his shtick. I'm Bane. See, that works. Just saying. I don't know if he's going to do that. All the while this is going on, yes, there is a presidential race, and right now Biden's still in it, and you've got the battle of plans.
Trump's emerging re-election strategy going forward appears twofold. Declare victory in the pandemic, no matter what, and attack Joe Biden as too feeble and too compromised by his long history in Washington to be trusted with the presidency at this critical moment.
Yeah. Too feeble? It's possible that he's going to be portrayed that way. They portray Trump that way, right? Like he's crazy. Think about this for a second. Trump's an older dude, 70. I mean, it's not super old by today's standards. But Biden, if he wins, he's going to be 78. If Trump runs and wins again, right? So he wins again. By the time that he would get out, if Biden was getting in, I mean, he's 78 years old. A couple of the guys I know yesterday, I asked them who they love Trump's economic side of it, but they just can't stand him. They said they're going to vote for Trump. I mean, for Biden. I said, I get it. I said, but let me ask you a question. I said, would you let him drive you around? And they both looked at me and go, you know, oddly enough, we took my grandpa's keys when he was about 76. I go, well, Biden's 78. And you're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's something to think about. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. The reopening, that's the big question. When are we all going to get back out there? How long is that going to take? And then what happens?
People are tired of having their lives disrupted. But what people need to understand is that we are in the early days of this pandemic, and going back to how things were 2 months ago is not possible. We're going to see large spikes in cases and people who are losing their lives when those losses could have been prevented.
But how many of them could be prevented? That's just it. Because staying inside your house to prevent everything, again, monster doesn't go anywhere. It's still here. It's still right there. You go inside your house and everybody stays put and nobody goes anywhere. And just a scant few people are allowed to go outside. Doesn't mean the monster's like, nothing to see here. We're going to leave. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Happy Cinco de Mayo. We'll talk about that straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The new model its authors called Sobering. By August 4th, the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington said the coronavirus death toll could reach nearly 135,000. That's almost double the projection made by the same scientists last month. The surge, they said, was in part due to the lifting of restrictions in 38 states. The model could still be adjusted as scientists learn more about the effect warmer weather has on the virus.
Yeah. Sobering. Is it going to get to that level? Look, I think over a period of time, it could get to 100, 150, 200,000, but that's over a period of time. We don't keep track of the flu. We don't go, okay, last year we lost 80,000 the flu. This year we lost 50, so we'll count them all together. Seasonally, one season to the next season. You don't keep like baseball. They don't keep last year we won 110 games. We've already won, 8 this year. So we've got 118 wins. It doesn't work that way. But because of this, they're going to probably work it that way. Oh, really? Yeah. The question still remains, what happens when there is a spike? That is going to come. It is going to come. It's going to happen. It's not going anywhere.
The physical distancing measures have had an impact. I mean, and we've done something in this country and really in many places around the world, which I think a lot of people would have been shocked if you told them 6 months ago, this is what the world is going to look like. It's had an impact. But I think what it's brought things down to is sort of a slower burn. I mean, there's still a lot of cases that are happening every day, a lot of people who are dying, sadly, every day, and we haven't really seen the back end of this curve yet. So I think this is what the data is telling us, that physical distancing will plateau us. It's not going to be a way out.
And that's what everybody wants. What is the way out? How do we get out? How do we go from point A to point B, so on and so forth?
So we have to maintain this for a period of time until there is an actual way out, which is either going to be a vaccine, which everyone talks about, a really effective therapeutic, or a way to test so robustly that you can immediately find these patients who have the infection and isolate them.
That's just not good. If we were talking about that kind of testing, you would have to test day to day. Everybody, you just can't. You can test today, and you could come back negative. By the time you got home, you could have come in contact with somebody who has it, or something that you caught it from, and that's the problem with the testing. No matter how much we test, there's only so much we're going to be able to do. And then we're going to go contact tracing. What's that going to cost? How many people are going to be? I mean, that just can't happen. I believe we need to do a lot more testing. Let me tell you that right now. We absolutely must do a ton of testing. At the same time, we have to ask ourselves, how do we open up? And what are we going to do when we open up and we see those spikes? See a lot of people out there, well, I'm not going outside until there's a vaccine.
We'll have to wait until there's enough incident disease in the phase 2 cohort, which has been vaccinated now, to see whether we have largely eliminated the disease in those vaccinated with this vaccine as opposed to the placebo. And that's really the test. We've got sites already in play in other bits of the world where it's active. So we're pretty sure we'll get a signal by June about whether this works or not.
Yeah, that right there is Sir John Bell, epidemiologist, who is working with the Oxford development of the vaccine, and they jumped straight to it. They jumped over everything. They went straight to primates, basically. By the time, the speed at which this took place, the laser beam-like speed from point A to point B to get to this point where they're already testing this vaccine out into the tune of about 6,000 is what they're looking to do. And it was tough. You would think, there's so many people volunteer for it. The problem with it is you needed people that were living their lives. That was their toughest find, was finding people that were going to be exposed to it. Because the whole thing is, if I give you a vaccine but you don't go anywhere, who cares if I gave you a vaccine? If you're not exposed to it, how can I tell if my vaccine works? So they needed people that are going to be exposed to it. At the end of the day, though, it's not 100%.
Coronavirus doesn't mutate at the pace of flu, as far as we can see, but it's also quite a tricky virus in terms of generating long-standing immune responses to it. As a result, I suspect we may need to have relatively regular vaccinations against coronaviruses going into the future. That, of course, remains to be seen, but that's my bet at the moment, is that this is likely to be a seasonal coronavirus vaccine.
Seasonal. So just like you get the flu shot, you'll see it at Walgreens and CVS. Come get your coronavirus shot. And it's much like the flu. It's not going to be 100%. It isn't. That's Sir John Bell, epidemiologist, Oxford, on the vaccine development. And there's not 100% certain that it is going to work at all. Remember, when things mutate, people go, oh, my God, it's mutating. Yeah, but usually when it mutates and tries to replicate it, it's a weaker copy of the first. So we'll see. We'll see what takes place. But the reality of all of this is it's not going anywhere. And we start asking that question over and over again. How do we get out of this? Because we have to. Governors like Cuomo, who've done all the work to try to stem the tide, to battle this thing head on. You take away New York, our numbers look a lot different. New York was, in many ways, worse than a lot of other countries that were also hit hard by it. But now you have to start asking the question, all right, you got to dig out of it, because staying at home forever isn't the answer.
People are all talking about reopening. This is not a sustainable situation. Close down everything. Close down the economy. Lock yourself in the home. You can do it for a short period of time, but you can't do it forever. But reopening is more difficult than the close down. The close down was relatively simple. You go into the basement, you throw the big power switch, and everything just goes down. When you go to restart, now knowing what we know, it's more nuanced. You have to be more careful. No one has done this before, and no one has been here before.
And he's right. Nobody knows what to expect. Also, how the public reacts. Not only going out, spending money, going back to work, doing those kind of things, being in public spaces with one another. Also, how does the government react? Because the fear from a lot of business owners is, I don't know what your next move is, because you're not signaling what your next move is. If your next move is, we're going to try this, we get out there and for 6 weeks things are going okay, but there's a spike and all of a sudden you say we got to close down again, that is not something that I think a lot of small business owners, and 48% of Americans are employed by small business owners, can withstand a second hit.
I get the emotion and I get the impatience and I get the anxiety. We all feel it. The situation is unsustainable. It's unsustainable on many levels. It's unsustainable economically. It's unsustainable personally. We see it in increased alcoholism, increased substance abuse, increased domestic violence. A very, very difficult period, and people want to move on. Yes, but let's be smart about what we do and let's learn the lessons.
Yeah. And I think the lessons are there to be learned. 110%. You can learn a ton of lessons about how we face these things, lessons about the way that we can change almost overnight, instantaneously, by starting to social distance ourselves. Lessons in a lot of different things in the way that we handle this. Now, this is the next lesson, which is how do we adapt to a brand new world where social distancing is going to be part of it. How do we get there from point A to point B? Because it does matter. Because you are going to eventually allow the genie to come out of the bottle. Meaning, people are going to get themselves in a position to get out, to start to rebuild their lives financially, rebuild their businesses, try to hold on for dear life. How do you get those people if things start to go in a different direction? How do you say to them, we got to do it again? Because you're starting to see over and over again these protests, and these protests are getting bigger and bigger. What's it look like in 6 weeks if we shut it down? That's huge. And we're looking around the world to see how other people are handling their business, like the Brits.
Government-led discussions are underway this week about getting a safe back-to-work transition in place. British Health Secretary Matt Hancock.
It's critical that employers offer safe workplaces. And we've been working with employers, large and small, and with the trade unions on getting these details right.
All sides agree the move away from the current government-supported furlough plan must be gradual and open to modification.
Yeah, and one of the things they're talking about is because this virus attacks, how should we say this? People of size is probably a good way to say it. People who nutritionally overachieve, I would say fat people, but that sounds awful, that they may have to work from home. Older people, people with compromised immune system, maybe somebody who's going through cancer treatments at this moment in time and their immune system is already rattled and battered, those people would stay at home. Everybody else may have to get out there. So the larger people may have to stay home, and they still have no idea why it affects larger people. But if you look at a lot of places, Louisiana is one. Most of the people that were really struck hard and paid the ultimate price, obesity, diabetes, unhealthy, smoking, just an unhealthy lifestyle. I know that's a shock, but that's very real. And they're looking at it saying, well, we got to be smart about this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Love and hate. Raycons. Oh, yeah. What? I tell everybody, having a great pair of just an amazing set of earbuds is awesome. And in this day and age, when you're home and kids are running around and you're thinking to yourself, my God, it's driving me crazy. Self, what do I do? Raycons are what you do. Less than $100, the E25s every day earphones. I mean, these things are amazing. 6 hours of playtime. So you just plug them right in, take them out, put them in your ears, comfortable, snug, nice noise isolating fit, and seamless Bluetooth pairing. And what's just so amazing about these is the noise isolation, the fit. So when you're talking to somebody, like whether it's like a Zoom meeting or meetings, or you've got to go and do all of these phone calls, you're not going to hear craziness and chaos, and they're going to be able to hear you. And there's no dangling wires or stems, so when people are looking at you and you got that dangling wire stem, trust me, you're going to love these. Love these. Start well under $100, and I'm going to save you some more money right now. Simple, go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. You save 15%. Buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show, where we reach across the aisle and occasionally poke someone in the eye.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. It is not Mexican Independence Day. This is it's weird, right? Like, we celebrate it here in the United States, which started as a big celebration more in California. And that's been celebrated since like 1862 or 63. But this has all to do with the Battle of Mexico against France in Puebla, which the Mexican army defeated the French. Their leader, Zaragoza, helped defeat the French. Now, a year later, the French came back and won. But this is a big festival here. Mexico, they kind of celebrate it. They have a couple things they do, but it's not like, this isn't Mexican Independence Day. I think a lot of people think that. It's not. So it is about the Battle of Puebla and the French and the defeat of the French there. People are going to go out and celebrate anyways. It was a thing I posted last week, the irony. Cinco de Mayo falls on Taco Tuesday, ruined by a virus named after a Mexican beer. So there you go. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Love hearing from every single one of you. Well, kids, guess what? If you've not seen it, I highly recommend it. And you may be able to see a movie, TV show, who knows?
My name's Joe Exotic.
One of the hottest roles in Hollywood going to Nicolas Cage.
Congratulations, you're human.
The Oscar-winning actor will play Joe Exotic in a scripted series about the controversial Tiger King. The news first reported by Variety. It'll be an 8-episode series from Imagine Television and CBS, which will shop it around. And it's based not on the Netflix series, but on an article written for Texas Monthly. Apparently, the series will explore how Joe Schreibvogel became Joe Exotic and is different from another series in which SNL's Kate McKinnon is on board to play Exotic's archenemy, Carol Baskin. The show would mark Cage's first TV series.
It'll be, first of all, that's kind of interesting because everything's about the prequel nowadays, right? So you got to, how did you get to this point? That's always interesting. But they're like, who's crazy? Because this guy's crazy, so we need Nicolas Cage. Who's the modern day Gary Busey and Nick Nolte, who can play young enough? Everybody's like, but David Spade, yeah, but you've got to have somebody get in the part. No offense to Spade, I don't think Spade can get in. Like Nick Cage is, well, he's Nick Cage, right? So he's perfect for this. And again, it's all about the prequel.
Say it. Vampire. The Twilight Saga will continue. Author Stephanie Meyer's prequel, The Midnight Sun, is coming out August 4th. Fans thought Midnight Sun might never see the light of day after Myers abandoned it more than a decade ago when part of it leaked online. The The Twilight series has sold more than 100 million copies worldwide and was turned into a blockbuster movie franchise.
She's like, I don't need to do any of these things. Don't worry about that. I've got this. And nobody's buying your books. I'm going to bring it back. Was it, what's her name with the Harry Potter series? You just can't. If you've got something, run with it. Run with it until you can't run with it anymore. Just keep going with it for as long as you possibly can. And nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It's a golden goose. Continue to eat, drink, and sleep, and hang out, and watch over the golden goose for as long as you can. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. Love hearing from you. I love to. One of the Cinco at home is one of the trending things that's going on. So you can celebrate and Cinco at home. Are you going to have tacos tonight, Phil? Because it is Taco Tuesday as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Phil's. Yeah. Phil's not going to have tacos. I can tell you that right now. I, on the other hand, always have tacos on Tuesday, so I will be having tacos tonight. I say that, then I'll probably get a burrito. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. That is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well. Check out the Instagram. And, of course, thechadshow.com. This is Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Of course everybody wants to save every life they can. But the question is, towards what end ultimately? Are there ways that we can thread the middle here to allow that there are going to be deaths, and they're going to be deaths no matter what? And if we can do things to keep people in the mode of wearing masks, of wearing gloves, of distancing where appropriate, we've got to let some of these folks get back to work, because if we don't, we're going to destroy the American way of life in these families, and it will be years and years before we can recover.
He's right. I mean, he is. We've got to figure out how we get back out there. We need to continue to do social distancing. Yeah, we need to do some of those things that are in place. We need to have still in place as we get ourselves back out there to try and slow the spread of this. But let's not forget why we started doing this the way that we're doing it. It was never to get to zero infections, because that was just never going to happen unless nobody ever left their house. We can't function.
I think it's important for us to remember the purpose and the goal behind all of these restrictions that we put in place in March. We need to remember those goals in the first place. The goal was never zero new infections. The goal was to flatten the curve. The goal was to slow down the rate of infection so that we wouldn't overwhelm the hospitals, so that too many people didn't get sick too fast and as a result overwhelm our hospital capacity. And now the goal should be, how do we reopen? How much can we reopen in this new normal without overwhelming our hospitals?
That's a fair question. How much can we? What do we do? So you have Marco Rubio there, before that Chris Christie. And then you've got other people out there who are saying, well, let's just let's continue on this course. But we can't stay here forever. Dr. Besser.
People are tired of having their lives disrupted. But what people need to understand is that we are in the early days of this pandemic, and going back to how things were 2 months ago is not possible. We're going to see large spikes in cases and people who are losing their lives when those losses could have been prevented.
So is it stay in forever? Is that because some people they're fine with that until there's a vaccine, and we don't know how long that's going to be. We don't. We can't stay this way forever. We've got to figure out how we go from point A to point B, from point B to point C, and so on and so forth. But at some point in time, we're going to have to go, okay, we've got to go. I've said once we go, we have to go. We can't half-ass it. We can't say, well, we'll kind of do it. But then if we have to, we'll turn around and run in. It's once you take that first step, it's on. But Chad, what about you're not going to stop every death from happening. You're not going to say, hey, I got an idea. Let's stay inside all day. And then in 6 months we'll emerge. And whatever happens from there, if it comes back, we'll just go back inside. Well, that's not what people are saying. No, that's not. But we're living our business life and financial life that way. And that can be just as dangerous in the long term.
Well, I think that it's absolutely true that there are a lot of costs for high unemployment and a huge crash in the economy that we have seen. And they're not all, there are a lot of social costs. There are obviously the economic costs, but there are also medical costs. There in the sense of health costs. Generally, when the economy goes down, you see domestic abuse go up, you see depression go up. So there are, in fact, a lot of costs. And so we're trying to do two things in Ohio at once. And, we're trying to do it very, very carefully.
That's Governor DeWine right there. And just to give you, when he talks about depression, 2008, the Great Recession, a spike in suicides, 10,000 people. But Chad, we're heading towards 70,000. Yeah, we're heading towards 70,000 deaths, and we may get to 120,000. We don't know. And this may be a seasonal thing where every year we could potentially lose 30 to 50,000 people, even with some sort of vaccine, much like the flu. But we're not going to stop down at that point again every year. We just can't afford to do it. The reality is, the world that we live in, at some point in time, we're going to have to make a tough decision. Our leaders, state by state, are going to have to make decisions that are tough. But that's what leaders are for. We put these people in these positions so they make this decision. And there is no right answer and there is no wrong answer. There is just the answer. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Fred Cuomo, Dr. Fauci.
When I went out to shop this weekend, everybody was out there. A lot of people had masks. The people have had it. The seasons are changing. It feels like summer. It's been long enough. How do you combat people's willingness to accept more cases, to accept even more death?
How many deaths and how much suffering are you willing to accept to get back to what you want to be some form of normality sooner rather than later?
Here's the thing, though. If at the end we're going to end up in the same place, would you rather be there sooner or would you rather be there later? Would you rather it drag on for several months, maybe a few years? Or would you say, if this is what's going to happen, regardless of whatever actions we take every time we step outside the door, should we not say to ourselves, well, if this is something that's going to happen, we're going to have to learn to live with it rather than hide from it?
Coming from the vantage point that I come and seeing the danger in it, I feel I have a moral obligation to give the kind of information that I'm giving. People are going to make their own choices. I cannot, nor anybody, force people under every circumstance to do what you think is best. The only thing that I can do, Chris, is to give the information based on evidence and based on experience.
Yeah. And people are going to make their own choices. And he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. As a doctor, not a politician. As somebody who's looking at numbers and statistics because he wants to save as many people as possible. That's what you want in the position that he's in. And I don't fault him for that. I hear people screaming about this, conspiracy theories and all that crap. And I don't fault him for any of that crap. He's doing what he has to do. But leaders have to look at everything, not just a single picture. They've got to look at the entire picture.
And there are people that are going to be disagreeing with me, some of them rather violently in many respects, telling me that I'm crazy, fire Fauci, do this, do that. That's part of the game. I'm just going to keep giving you the information that I feel is necessary to make the decisions that I think are prudent decisions.
Yeah, and that's what I want from him. But I also realize that we're going to have to get out there. And when he talked about what's the acceptable rate of death or whatever, look at the numbers, look at the data. Could we have done some things differently? Of course. Could we have been earlier into the game? Of course. Could China have done the things that they needed to do instead of lying? By the way, France says they believe they found a case as early as December now. So there is some serious splaining to do, and China's even come out today and said that they know that there's going to be massive blowback and that they're trying to brace themselves because they know the financial side of this is going to cost them. I talk about Sweden, and I look at Sweden, and everybody's like, yeah, but look at their numbers. Yes, but the way that they've looked at it is they felt like it's not going to go anywhere. They felt like we've got enough beds, we have enough medical care. We're going to all end up at the same place. The difference is we're not going to ruin ourselves along the way because we're going to make the toughest choice early because we don't think the models that are put out there are real. This is Stanford's Dr. Scott Atlas.
All over the world, we know the fatality rate is much lower than what the models were based on originally. We know that we have flattened, the curves have been flattened, and the curves to note are not the numbers of cases. The only curves that count are the deaths per day and the hospitalizations per day. And when you take all that into account, including the very important things that are catastrophically destructive about total isolation, you come to the same conclusion that I and many people all over the world support.
Yeah. And it's funny. Everybody's like, listen to the experts. Well, who's experts? Everybody's got an expert. This guy is a big-time expert. Other people are big-time experts saying, well, what about this? Well, this epidemiologist has it wrong. This is part of the problem. You have conflicting things. Here's the reality of it. I think we all know, and we don't want to say it because we feel bad, that we're going to have to make certain choices. And because of that, some people are going to lose their lives. And we all know that it sucks to say it out loud because you feel like you're a bad person. But the reality is, to go back out there, we're going to have to accept the fact that there's some inherent risk when it comes to this particular thing. And that there's going to be spikes, and because of that, there's going to be some deaths. But the alternative is we hope and pray that they come up with a vaccine by the first of the year and a therapeutic treatment that absolutely works, and otherwise we stay and hide and everybody goes bankrupt. That doesn't sound like something at the end of it that we come out to and go, oh, this was a good idea. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Trump today will be, yes, in Arizona.
When the president visits an N95 mask factory today in Arizona, will he be wearing a mask? Last week, Vice President Pence was criticized for not wearing one at the Mayo Clinic. Pence now says he should have worn a mask. President Trump saying, yeah, he's willing to.
I'd have no problem wearing a mask. I don't know. I'm supposed to make a speech. I just don't know. Should I speak in a mask? You're going to have to tell me if that's politically correct.
After his stop at the factory, the president will return to the White House.
Yep. Coming out here. He's going to have a mask on. It's an N95 mask. So we'll see if he wears it. I don't know if he's going to wear it. I think he'll put one on, but I don't think he'll wear it throughout. That's my guess. Speaking of masks, work with an amazing company, Boomer Naturals, full-service wellness company, provides products and services to enhance the well-being and increase your quality of life. Right now, they are doing something awesome. They've got masks. That's right, masks. Everybody's going to be wearing these things. Why not get something that's comfortable and actually works? N95s, those are for the frontline people. Those are one of those things where you're like, ooh, yeah, these are the next best thing. 92.2% effective. Antibacterial protection from dangerous particles and droplets in the air. This is what also is so great about them. 30-day use. So you have them, you wear them, you wash them, right? Don't put them in a washer. Hand wash them, a little bit of soap, air dry, and away you go. It's incredible. 65% cotton, 35% polyester. It's a blended material, super comfortable, suitable for all-day wear, covers your nose and mouth, breathable protection, available in adult and children's sizes from Boomer Naturals. These same masks are being used in hospitals in some countries where they've shown the effectiveness is incredible. Right now, you're going to save big. You go to boomernaturals.com, use code CHAD20, save 20%, plus get free shipping on all orders over $50. That's code CHAD20 at boomernaturals.com. Take your family's health into your own hands and order your 30-day mask now at boomernaturals.com. Promo code CHAD20. Chad Benson Show.
I can't take it anymore!
Well, get over it. It's time to forge a new path with your very own political cartographer, Chad.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? All righty, let's take a look at the Twitter. What is trending on the next 2020 plague? I think we're already there, right? Murder hornets, I thought was the plague. Murder hornets. Travel Tuesday. Where would you like to go, but you can't? Was it Mnuchin said yesterday there may not be international travel to 2021? I don't know how airline companies are going to come out of this. I am assuming eventually consolidation and less choice at the end of this, because the strong will survive. The ones who did okay in good times are going to struggle to get back on their feet, and they're going to get gobbled up by what's left. Kind of what happened to the banks. The next plague. We have that. Cinco de Mayo is trending because it is Cinco de Mayo. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but I will remind you guys, it is not Mexican Independence Day. It's about the Battle of Puebla between Mexico and France, of which Mexico won on this day, those many years ago. And then they lost subsequently a year later. I always think that Teacher Appreciation Day is today. I'm like, is that today? Because it feels like that's like the 20th time I've seen that. Top of that, J.Crew is on the Google trending because they are going to file for bankruptcy, as are many other giant retailers. Here's the weird thing. So when you see a company file for bankruptcy, a lot of what's happening, in many cases, they've expanded too much. They've got too much debt, so it gives them protection to start shedding some of that debt. Then they rebrand it, re-roll it out, and away they go. Some companies, though, are so upside down because you need actual capital to be able to go out and do the things that you're going to do, and many companies don't have that capital. So we'll see. JCPenney, Sears, a lot of these other companies, there's going to be so many bankruptcy filings, not just in little companies, but big companies in the coming months. Amanda Bynes, remember her? God, she used to be like, oh, she's cute. She's going to be something big. And then she was like, oh, she's nuts. And she's not pregnant, but I do believe we can safely say she's not well. How's that? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. You can text the program as well on this Cinco de Mayo. Love hearing from you. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
States want to see downward trends in hospitalizations and deaths to know that they're on the right track. And they want to see that for a couple weeks. And then they want to go slowly, carefully, based on the best public health science. So that involves ramping up testing, being able to identify people even with mild infections, because even though they'll do well, they could spread the infection, finding out who those people have had contact with, and then providing people with safe places for isolation and quarantine so that they don't continue to spread this.
It's Dr. Besser there. By the way, that sounds time-consuming and expensive. So he's talking about massive amounts of testing, which here's the weird thing. We have tested more than anybody else, but it's never enough for some people. For everybody else, it's like, it's just enough. We're talking right and left here because that's where we are. So as far as testing goes, we have tested more than anybody else. But we haven't tested that many people. Maybe, 2% of the population, if that? How many? And the test is only as good as the time that the test was taken. Anything after said test, things could have changed. So then what? I don't know. But hospitalization is very important. Trump's out here in Arizona, going to the Honeywell factory, and our hospitalization. So do see the governor's. Hey, he's gonna loosen some things up. It's weird. He's got to stay at home orders until I think the 14th. But as of yesterday, retail could open as long as it's appointment only or like app purchases where it's curbside delivery. And then by Friday, you can open up. And then Monday, restaurants could open up with limited capacity and things of that nature. And I'm like, well, how is the stay at home? Whatever. In saying all of that, yeah, I look at the things that I know are tangible. Models, to me, can change second by second, moment by moment. And they have. None of the models have been right at all. First, it was going to be 2.2 million. Then it dropped down to 1 million. Then it dropped down to 800,000. Then it dropped down to, and now we're looking back. It's over, we're like at 70,000, probably 140,000 through August. Okay, so those are some models. Could it end up being 100,000? It could. Could it end up being 200,000? It's always a possibility. Dr. Birx and Fauci have said it's going to be between 100 and 240,000. That's what the models are going to be. But when I look at stuff that I know is real, it's like hospitalization. Some states you look and you say, okay, New York, large hospitalization of people of the coronavirus relative to percentage-wise to the hospital beds that are available. Some states, California, very, very small. Here in Arizona, we're at like 8% of the people in hospitals are there for COVID-19. That's a tangible, real number. That's not projecting forward thinking. That's what's available in front of us now. So states are going to do what they do. I just saw a headline on like CNN or one of those things, and they're like, Trump is going out to Arizona, or he's out in Arizona, and then it starts talking about experts warn of reopening too soon. Well, here's the thing. States have been given, hey, here's your marching orders about what the feds recommend. The Fauci's and the Birx and everybody else is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, because we don't have a vaccine or a therapeutic treatment that is 100% certain to at least lessen this and or eventually beat it once you get it. So he and they put that out, but states are doing their own thing because we live in a country where the states get to govern themselves. This is no win situation, no matter where it is, but we live in a polarized world. Case in point, new poll. Most Americans, the new poll, say they don't believe the number of coronavirus. Doesn't matter if you're left or right, according to the new Axios Ipsos poll released Tuesday. 63% of Democrats said the number of deaths is more than reported. So the 68 to 70,000, they believe it's higher than that. Only 24% of Republicans believe that. 40% of Republicans, meanwhile, said the number of deaths are less, and only 7% of Democrats believe that. Almost half of independents say the number of deaths are more. 24% say it's less. What do I think? I think we'll never know. Exactly. I think there are some people out there that have passed away, and it probably was coronavirus and wasn't counted. And I think there are some people out there who died, and it wasn't coronavirus, but it was counted as coronavirus. So will we ever know the truth? No, we're not. But it shows you the polarized world that we live in. Already at this point in time, they're laying the groundworks to come hard at Trump.
He is who he is, and he would continue to operate the way he had. And indeed, that's exactly what we've seen since we dramatically understated. Is when we ask the question, if you found him guilty, do you really need to remove him, given that there's another election only 9 months away? How much damage could he really do? We said a lot, but little did we know just how great the casualties would be. Some days we lose the equivalent of the number of people we lost on 9/11, and think that there's no way we could have foreseen just how tragic his malfeasance would be in the remaining months of his administration.
Yeah, so this is all his fault, obviously. Adam Schiff, right there. It's politics. It's politics. That's what this is. Politics. Don't let tragedy, chaos, and craziness, and yes, a pandemic, go to waste.
Right now, just the stakes are too high when it comes to another 4 years of Trump. My community especially has been so impacted. And it's, for a lot of communities, this is an issue of life and death. We've had kids in cages. We've had a pandemic response that happened way too late that has cost us lives. We have people that don't have access to critical care that they need. I think it's really important that we rally behind our Democratic nominee in November.
That's Joe Biden, for those of you not keeping score. So that's where this is going. Schiff's already laying the groundwork that should Trump win re-election, we'll look into this and find out if we have to go after him again because he ignored certain things. He ignored this. I've said all along, his biggest defense in all of this is the World Health Organization said this wasn't even possible for this thing to transmit from person to person. China's got a lot of explaining to do. And they do, by the way. They absolutely do. And if we're talking polls, it ain't just Trump that thinks that.
A U.S. Homeland Security report concludes, quote, the Chinese government intentionally concealed the severity of COVID-19 from the international community in early January, while it stockpiled medical supplies. And now, in a new interview with the New York Post, President Trump claims more Americans are agreeing with him, with a desire for the U.S. to be less dependent on Chinese manufacturing, saying, the one thing that this pandemic has taught us is that I was right. Now those people are really agreeing with me, and that includes medicine and other things.
He's absolutely right on that. China's bracing for what is coming because they know there are financial implications coming along with this. The UK's defense minister came out yesterday and says China has a lot of explaining to do. Not the first. You've had several big people inside the EU who have absolutely criticized China because everybody in the world talked about. Nobody believed anything that China had to say. Nobody believed any of the stuff that they're peddling a bunch of horse crap. If you think that their numbers are only this, if you think that they're only doing this, if you think that they were peddling a bunch of crap. Now, you can argue all day in the conspiracy theory world that we live in whether or not this was created in a lab. It wasn't created in a lab. Nature, as we always tell you on the show, will mess you up. Could it have gotten out of a lab? It's a possibility. But All that being said, China played a game. And it's going to cost them. And it should. And he's right. We shouldn't be more dependent. We've got several countries that are right next to us that are desperately in need of jobs that we could ship there. But part of that lies on us because the cost would be different and potentially the goods would cost more. And in an age where we love to consume, are we willing to pay a little bit more, but also have more control? That's something to think about. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program, Wounded Paw Project. Great organization. Imagine this, rescuing a dog, and it changes your life. Ernesto did that, came home from several tours. He was struggling physically and mentally. He rescued a dog named Daisy, changed his life, and he says, I should do this for other veterans. And that's when he created Wounded Paw Project. It grew from there because what they do is they rescue dogs and take them from the shelter to become service dogs. So that's, they say you can't do that. He does it. Shelter to service dogs. And they need your help because they've expanded over the years to first responders and their family. And you see what our first responders are going through. And you can donate several different ways. First way you can donate is you could, if you're on Amazon, you can go to smile.amazon.com, set your supporting group to Wounded Paw Project. The second thing you could do is they do take cash. And the third thing is you can donate your vehicle. Car, truck, RV, even a boat. It will truly be a vehicle for change. They're going to take those proceeds to protect and advocate as well as train these animals to take them from the shelter to become service dogs for veterans, first responders, and their family. Simple and easy. Find out everything you need to know at woundedpawproject.org. 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 Chad Benson Show.
No need to fear. We promise we won't give you a noogie and make you cry Russia, Russia, Russia.
Who is the fearless leader?
Fooey.
Fooey, fooey, and double fooey.
What is your language? This is a family show, remember?
Fooey to families too.
Nostrovia. This is Chad Benson.
Yesterday was May the 4th. Today's Revenge of the 5th. Will there be more Star Wars? Yes, because, damn it, Disney paid a ton of money for it.
He recently played Hitler. That was intense. And won an Oscar for writing Jojo Rabbit, and now Taika Waititi is turning his attention to a galaxy far, far away. Disney officially announcing Monday that Waititi will direct and co-write an upcoming Star Wars movie. And we're told Krysty Wilson-Cairns, nominated for an Oscar for writing 1917, will co-write the script. Waititi, no stranger to the Star Wars universe, he directed the season 1 finale of The Mandalorian, and he won raves for helming the last Thor film, Ragnarok. No release date yet or other details like cast and plot for the upcoming Star Wars film.
Yeah, I like him. He's, by the way, of all of my watching of the Avengers and all the Marvel stuff, Ragnarok is my favorite. It's funny. It's got a lot of action. It's just, yeah, and it was great. It was just, they've got a couple supporting characters that very much are like the Flight of the Conchords. just it's that are like rock monsters and like this. It's just, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. So this will be interesting to see what he does. That guy's got a ton of talent. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. For those of you not knowing, April. So March started out, was the longest month in the history of months. It was like 55 days, it felt like, and it was a 30-hour day rather than 24. That's what it felt like as we ramped into pandemic style. April came around, went really fast, but we saw numbers rise in the chaos and craziness, and we, oh my God, what are we going to do? And then May said, hold our beer, let us show you what we can do, and they have now given us murder hornets.
It does cause a mortality factor among humans just because they're so large, and if someone stumbles across a nest and you get stung by a few of these hornets, it can cause serious health concerns.
Yeah, it can. and it hurts, and you don't want that at all, to be stung by any of these. Case in point, Coyote Peterson, who does this stuff.
Ah! Oh, this thing's stuck in my arm. Oh! Ooh.
How bad is it?
Oh, man, wave of dizziness really quick. Ah! Oh! Oh, searing pain! Absolute searing pain! There's where the stinger went in right there. Did you not see how slow the sting was? Oh!
I see blood.
Yeah, you should. It was ugly. Huge stinger, by the way. Massive, massive, massive stinger.
It has such a long stinger that our the suits that we normally use for beekeepers, it's not adequate.
No. And the beekeep suits are all gone because those are what servers are going to be serving restaurants. Those are what those are going to be wearing. So you can't even find a beekeeper outfit anywhere. And you heard Coyote Peterson, people talk about what it's like.
Being the biggest hornet also has a really big stinger, and that stinger can punch right through a regular beekeeping suit. In fact, the man who destroyed the nest up in Nanaimo, British Columbia, was stung multiple times. And you probably read the story, described it as hot thumbtacks being driven into his skin.
Yeah. So, hot thumbtacks, long stingers, murder hornet, here, ready to roll, ready to take you guys on. Murder hornets. Here's a perfect example, though, of nature. So, in Japan, they eat this as well. So, it kills about 50 people a year, but it also is a delicatessen to some people. And their bees have learned how to fight them in a weird way because they take them on by killing their scout. So the scout will go out and look around, and then he'll come back and go, oh, my God, I found a big one over here. It's awesome. We could totally go over there. We could rip their heads off, and then we could totally just smash them down, and then we could take them back to our babies. And like, oh, my God, that sounds great. But then the scout goes out, and sometimes scout doesn't return because the bees, they fly over, and they're like, hey, there's one of those scouts. That guy's such a Richard. Let's kick his ass. And they go over, and they swarm him, so they dogpile him on him, and then they start to vibrate. They don't sting him. They vibrate. And they vibrate, and they raise their temperature of their body. 118-degree temperature will kill the bees. So they take it up to 117 because they know that the scout or this murder hornet can only live at 115 or below. So once they rise above that, essentially, they cook them. So we've got COVID and we've got murder hornets. It's never ending. I can't wait till June. What do you think? Flying snakes that spit venom? Maybe Sharknado will be real. We have no idea. But I'm excited. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
When I went out to shop this weekend, everybody was out there. A lot of people had masks. The people have had it. The seasons are changing. It feels like summer. It's been long enough. How do you combat people's willingness to accept more cases, to accept even more death?
How many deaths and how much suffering are you willing to accept to get back to what you want to be some form of normality sooner rather than later?
That's Dr. Fauci and Fuedo Cuomo. How many deaths can people accept? Nobody wants anybody to die. I remind you, 1,700 people today will die from chronic heart disease, 1,600 from cancer. And that number may rise because people are stopping their cancer treatments. Heart patients aren't being seen. You combine those two, 3,300 people give or take, still die every single day. And when this is over and done with, that number will still stay the same. That's happening. How many deaths are acceptable? Well, we would like it if everybody would live. But that's not the reality. We have to live in the world of reality. I accept Fauci is doing his gig the way he's supposed to. He's a doctor. He swore an oath, and the oath was he is going to protect people. Politicians have a different oath. They've got to protect the Constitution. They have a different oath. They have to look at everything, not just a snapshot, a big picture, not for just today, but for the future.
Coming from the vantage point that I come and seeing the danger in it, I feel I have a moral obligation to give the kind of information that I'm giving. People are going to make their own choices. I cannot, nor anybody, force people under every circumstance to do what you think is best. The only thing that I can do, Chris, is to give the information based on evidence and based on experience.
That's it. That's all he can do. That is all that he can do. Is give the information, make suggestions. You know, he's going to testify. Trump says, yeah, you can testify in front of Congress. You know, they want you to come over and do this. And so he's going to go do that because there's nothing. Yeah, he didn't have any other things going on. There's nothing. It's just, hey, you got some time to go sit in front of a bunch of entitled, obnoxious people who are going to ask you ridiculous questions, trying to score brownie points for their base. Oh, yeah, I got nothing else going on. There's no pandemic. Are you sure? I wonder if they're going to bring the wasp in or the hornet. Why are you here? But he's got to do his gig. And he said, look, you know, we asked Trump, do this. He did this. You do this. You did. He wouldn't criticize all day long, but do this, do that, do this. Trump's done that. And now the reopening of the states, well, he is leaving that to the states. At the end of the day, it is the states that are going to make those decisions. And they're going to make those decisions. And some of those decisions may turn out to be too early. Some of those decisions may turn out to be right. Some of them, well, they may wait too long and see too many businesses not be able to reopen. But those decisions are going to come. And we're looking at models. Everything's about a model. Look at this model. Look at that model. What's this model say? How's this model go? What do we do here? Look at this over here. What about this? It's confusing as hell. It is. It really is.
The projections come from the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington. Institute Director Dr. Chris Murray says as states reopen, the number of deaths will climb, and that as of now, the only way to stop the virus is through limiting personal interaction.
If you persisted with social distancing, as New Zealand has, then you can certainly get transmission down to zero.
With states relaxing their guidelines, he says the U.S. can expect as many as 134,000 deaths.
Here's the thing. If we do what New Zealand's done, which is, remember when Trump cut off China and everybody's like, oh, he's a racist. And then later on, they're like, we probably should have done it sooner. Then in Europe, we're not going to get down to zero unless this thing eventually runs its course and it's seasonal and it just disappears from like, you know, mid-May through August if it's seasonal and starts to reemerge as it starts to cool down. But New Zealand's talking about all kinds of limiting and that's not who we are. We're not that. We're a much more open society. We have what I like to call diversity. Oh, yeah. People come here on a regular basis from all over the globe, which is part of the problem, is how open and wide open we are and our freedoms. And our freedoms allow us to travel, to do certain things. It's never going to get down to zero. Why we started doing this wasn't to get it down to zero, because we're not living in la la land. We live in reality.
I think it's important for us to remember the purpose and the goal behind all of these restrictions that we put in place in March. We need to remember those goals in the first place. The goal was never 0 new infections. The goal was to flatten the curve. The goal was to slow down the rate of infection so that we wouldn't overwhelm the hospitals, so that too many people didn't get sick too fast and as a result overwhelm our hospital capacity. And now the goal should be, how do we reopen? How much can we reopen in this new normal without overwhelming our hospitals?
And that's what it was about. Bracing ourselves for what potentially could be the tsunami effect of hundreds and thousands and potentially million people plus flooding into our emergency rooms, hospitals. We've got it set and ready to go. Many states across the country have more than ample amount of things that they need in case of whatever must happen. I think a lot of people thought everybody was going to be New York. And that didn't happen. People around the country are looking and saying, you've got 60, 70,000 infections in California, a population of 40 million. You've got under 3,000 deaths. You look around there and the hospitalization is 3%, 4%, 2%? Here in Arizona, it's 9% of people with COVID. And that number's falling. So we've gotten to that point. But the reopening, there's going to come risk with that. Everybody knows that. There's going to be a spike. Italy, Britain, everybody's is at the point where they realize they're taking something on that they know is going to have inherent risk, that they know is going to have a spike in infections. But the alternative is we wait until there's a vaccine, which may not come, or a therapeutic treatment that still could be months and months away, all the while our economy is being destroyed, which will have other ramifications, including health ramifications down the road.
Of course, everybody wants to save every life they can. But the question is, towards what end ultimately? Are there ways that we can thread the middle here to allow that there are going to be deaths? And they're going to be deaths no matter what. And if we can do things to keep people in the mode of wearing masks, of wearing gloves, of distancing where appropriate, we've got to let some of these folks get back to work, because if we don't, we're going to destroy the American way of life in these families. And it will be years and years before we can recover.
Yeah. Years and years. Did we gather that? Some people are saying it is going to take us 5 to 10 years to climb out of it. I do not believe it is going to take us that long. I believe we are going to see changes in the way that we live our life. I believe we're going to see some things that are going to come out of this that is going to be great. And we're still going to have a while before we get back to what we saw as a normal running economy and world. It will happen. But there are going to be trade-offs. And the trade-offs are what? People are going to be infected. Some people will die. Some people will never know they've been infected. Some people are going to have serious issues but recover from it. The majority of people that get this, probably about 90%, never see a hospital. Maybe 5 or 10% even contact their doctor. A good majority of them didn't even know they were carriers or thought they had something else. Thought I had a cold. Thought it was allergies. But the question is, how do we do it? Well, when you go, you better go. But staying inside is not an option. And I know that a lot of people really want to they're very risk adverse, and I get that. But we can, for the foreseeable future, learn to live with it, or we can hide from it. But either way, at least for the foreseeable future, it's not going anywhere. And judging by what people are saying about how this thing is going to be seasonal, the reality is we're going to have to learn to live with it. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at us. Car Shield. Right now, you're looking to save yourself some money. You're worried. Who knows what's going to happen in the economy? You've got this card that you like, but what if something went wrong? You're not worried about the engine. Maybe you're worried about the electronics. CarShield has a plan for you. Maybe your car's a little bit older. You're worried about transmission and the engine. CarShield has a plan for you, and it's great. Plans start as low as $99 a month. With that, you get 24/7 roadside assistance, a rental car for free while your car's in the shop. The shop is the shop that you choose. They get them paid directly. You pay a small deductible. Call them up, 800-CAR-6000. Use code Benson. Saves you 10% right there. But tell them exactly what you're looking for, and they'll get it handled for you. 800-CAR-6000, code Benson, or carshield.com, carshield.com. Code Benson saves you 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Take a fake news break. Check out the really important news of the day at our website, ChadBensonShow.com. Once there, click on Chad's free podcast and get real. The Chad Benson Show, where truth and the American way live. Print free.
Where's the beef? The 1980s Wendy's ad has new meaning in 2020 as Wendy's admits some menu items like beef burgers may be in short supply due to what it's calling production challenges. The fast food chain says it will continue to supply hamburger meat to all restaurants 2 to 3 times a week to try to minimize the impact.
Why do you have to say beef burgers? Like, Phil, don't you just automatically, like, it's a burger. It's a hamburger.
It's not the Impossible Burger.
It's not the Impossible. It's a beef burger. That's very British. Oh, I'm going to have a beef burger. Like, it's not. I love that commercial. Clara Peller was the name. Old lady. Didn't think about acting. She had a bunch of kids. She was a widow. She was a manicurist. Old lady. She was working for an agency doing some manicuring for like a shoot. They thought she was hilarious. So they signed her to a contract, and then lo and behold, she lands this commercial. Let's go back into the Wayback Machine and listen to that fabled Wendy's commercial. I believe the year was 1984.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very big bun. Big fluffy bun. It's a very big fluffy bun. Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
Aired January 10th, 1984. Where's the beef became a massive catchphrase across the United States and Canada. She earned $317.40 per day for the initial TV commercial campaign. Her fee for subsequent work as a Wendy's spokesperson was not disclosed, although she admitted later on with People magazine she earned about $30,000 for the first 2 commercials and profits as well as tie-ins. Wendy's later on said they paid her about $500,000 for all of her work. Following the conclusion of the Wendy's Where's the Beef campaign, now, it exploded. They made almost $1 billion off those ads. It was huge. Wendy's entered in a 2-year sales slump. Vice President at the time, Lynch, admitted that consumer awareness of Wendy's brand did not recover for another 5 years until Dave Thomas came in, the founder, and started doing funny commercials. Not bad, right? Not bad at all. She lived to be 85. And she was famous. I don't think anybody's back there. I still hear that and I laugh. I laugh at that. I wonder what she would think in today's wacky world of what's going on. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. You can text the program as well. Whose fault was it? China's? That's what a lot of people are saying. That's what Trump's saying. The intelligence agency is going to try to figure it out. I do believe there is a lot of blame that lies at everybody's feet in the way that people handled it, but I do think that China and the World Health Organization absolutely played a game, and the world is trying to climb out of it. The British are doing it. Italy, who's been in uber lockdown for months, is slowly but surely trying to reemerge.
Europe's longest lockdown easing after almost 2 months, allowing a return to work for more than 4 million people, construction and manufacturing back, parks open, and families able to reunite after weeks apart. But this is a cautious first step. Documentation is still needed to go outside. Masks and gloves required in some areas on public transport. Commuters screened for signs of fever.
What if it's just a Pringle? I've got a fever for Pringle. No, it's not. It's fever. Is that what's going to happen now? You have to take, I mean, like with flying, they're talking about like fever. They're going to take your temperature. They're going to have to give you a blood test. I'm like, God, is this, wow, this is like such a crazy, like, end of days, Armageddon kind of, did you get bit by it? You got 8 hours till you turn scenario. What? Yeah, you got 8 hours until you turn. And then what? I don't know. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. It's your Twitter. What if we don't get a vaccine? Now they're rushing to and through the vaccine world faster than they ever have in the history. But there's always a potential that we may not get a vaccine. Talk about that. A lot of other things. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The new model its authors called Sobering. By August 4th, the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington said the coronavirus death toll could reach nearly 135,000. That's almost double the projection made by the same scientists last month. The surge, they said, was in part due to the lifting of restrictions in 38 states. The model could still be adjusted as scientists learn more about the effect warmer weather has on the virus.
Yeah. Sobering. Is it going to get to that level? Look, I think over a period of time, it could get to 100, 150, 200,000, but that's over a period of time. We don't keep track of the flu. We don't go, okay, last year we lost 80,000 the flu. This year we lost 50, so we'll count them all together. Seasonally, one season to the next season. You don't keep like baseball. They don't keep last year we won 110 games. We've already won, 8 this year. So we've got 118 wins. It doesn't work that way. But because of this, they're going to probably work it that way. Oh, really? Yeah. The question still remains, what happens when there is a spike that is going to come? It is going to come. It's going to happen. It's not going anywhere.
The physical distancing measures have had an impact. I mean, and we've done something in this country and really in many places around the world, which I think a lot of people would have been shocked if you told them 6 months ago, this is what the world is going to look like. It's had an impact. But I think what it's brought things down to is sort of a slower burn. I mean, there's still a lot of cases that are happening every day, a lot of people who are dying, sadly, every day, and we haven't really seen the back end of this curve yet. So I think this is what the data is telling us, that physical distancing will plateau us. It's not going to be a way out.
And that's what everybody wants. What is the way out? How do we get out? How do we go from point A to point B, so on and so forth?
So we have to maintain this for a period of time until there is an actual way out, which is either going to be a vaccine, which everyone talks about, a really effective therapeutic, or a way to test so robustly that you can immediately find these patients who have the infection and isolate them.
That's just not. If we were talking about that kind of testing, you would have to test day to day. Everybody, you just can't. You can test today, and you could come back negative. By the time you got home, you could have come in contact with somebody who has it, or something that you caught it from, and that's the problem with the testing. No matter how much we test, there's only so much we're going to be able to do. And then we're going to go contact tracing. What's that going to cost? How many people are going to be? I mean, that just can't happen. I believe we need to do a lot more testing. Let me tell you that right now. We absolutely must do a ton of testing. At the same time, we have to ask ourselves, how do we open up? And what are we going to do when we open up and we see those spikes? See a lot of people out there, well, I'm not going outside until there's a vaccine.
We'll have to wait until there's enough incident disease in the phase 2 cohort, which has been vaccinated now, to see whether we have largely eliminated the disease in those vaccinated with this vaccine as opposed to the placebo. And that's really the test. We've got sites already in play in other bits of the world where it's active. So we're pretty sure we'll get a signal by June about whether this works or not.
Yeah, that right there is Sir John Bell, epidemiologist, who is working with the Oxford development of the vaccine, and they jumped straight to it. They jumped over everything. They went straight to primates, basically. By the time, the speed at which this took place, the laser beam-like speed from point A to point B to get to this point where they're already testing this vaccine out into the tune of about 6,000 is what they're looking to do. And it was tough. You would think, there's so many people volunteer for it. The problem with it is you needed people that were living their lives. That was their toughest find, was finding people that were going to be exposed to it. Because the whole thing is, if I give you a vaccine but you don't go anywhere, who cares if I gave you a vaccine? If you're not exposed to it, how can I tell if my vaccine works? So they needed people that are going to be exposed to it. At the end of the day, though, it's not 100%.
Coronavirus doesn't mutate at the pace of flu, as far as we can see, but it's also quite a tricky virus in terms of generating long-standing immune responses to it. As a result, I suspect we may need to have relatively regular vaccinations against coronaviruses going into the future. That, of course, remains to be seen, but that's my bet at the moment, is that this is likely to be a seasonal coronavirus vaccine.
Seasonal. So just like you get the flu shot, you'll see it at Walgreens and CVS. Come get your coronavirus shot. And it's much like the flu. It's not going to be 100%. It isn't. That's Sir John Bell, epidemiologist, Oxford, on the vaccine development. And there's not 100% certain that it is going to work at all. Remember, when things mutate, people go, oh, my God, it's mutated. Yeah, but usually when it mutates and tries to replicate it, it's a weaker copy of the first. So we'll see. We'll see what takes place. But the reality of all of this is it's not going anywhere. And we start asking that question over and over again. How do we get out of this? Because we have to. Governors like Cuomo, who've done all the work to try to stem the tide, to battle this thing head on. You take away New York, our numbers look a lot different. New York was, in many ways, worse than a lot of other countries that were also hit hard by it. But now you have to start asking the question, all right, you got to dig out of it, because staying at home forever isn't the answer.
People are all talking about reopening. This is not a sustainable situation. Close down everything. Close down the economy. Lock yourself in the home. You can do it for a short period of time, but you can't do it forever. But reopening is more difficult than the close down. The close down was relatively simple. You go into the basement, you throw the big power switch, and everything just goes down. When you go to restart, now knowing what we know, it's more nuanced. You have to be more careful. No one has done this before, and no one has been here before.
And he's right. Nobody knows what to expect. Also, how the public reacts, not only going out, spending money, going back to work, doing those kind of things, being in public spaces with one another, also how does the government react? Because the fear from a lot of business owners is, I don't know what your next move is, because you're not signaling what your next move is. If your next move is, we're going to try this, we get out there and for 6 weeks things are going okay, but there's a spike and all of a sudden you say we got to close down again, that is not something that I think a lot of small business owners, and 48% of Americans are employed by small business owners, can withstand a second hit.
I get the emotion and I get the impatience and I get the anxiety. We all feel it. The situation is unsustainable. It's unsustainable on many levels. It's unsustainable economically. It's unsustainable personally. We see it in increased alcoholism, increased substance abuse, increased domestic violence. A very, very difficult period, and people want to move on. Yes, but let's be smart about what we do and let's learn the lessons.
Yeah. And I think the lessons are there to be learned. 110%. You can learn a ton of lessons about how we face these things, lessons about the way that we can change almost overnight, instantaneously, by starting to social distance ourselves. Lessons in a lot of different things in the way that we handle this. Now, this is the next lesson, which is how do we adapt to a brand new world where social distancing is going to be part of it. How do we get there from point A to point B? Because it does matter. Because you are going to eventually allow the genie to come out of the bottle. Meaning, people are going to get themselves in a position to get out, to start to rebuild their lives financially, rebuild their businesses, try to hold on for dear life. How do you get those people if things start to go in a different direction? How do you say to them, we got to do it again? Because you're starting to see over and over again these protests, and these protests are getting bigger and bigger. What's it look like in 6 weeks if we shut it down? That's huge. And we're looking around the world to see how other people are handling their business, like the Brits.
Government-led discussions are underway this week about getting a safe back-to-work transition in place. British Health Secretary Matt Hancock.
It's critical that employers offer safe workplaces. And we've been working with employers, large and small, and with the trade unions on getting these details right.
All sides agree the move away from the current government-supported furlough plan must be gradual and open to modification.
Yeah, and one of the things they're talking about is because this virus attacks, how should we say this? People of size is probably a good way to say it. People who nutritionally overachieve, I would say fat people, but that sounds awful, that they may have to work from home. Older people, people with compromised immune system, maybe somebody who's going through cancer treatments at this moment in time and their immune system is already rattled and battered, those people would stay at home. Everybody else may have to get out there. So the larger people may have to stay home, and they still have no idea why it affects larger people. But if you look at a lot of places, Louisiana is one. Most of the people that were really struck hard and paid the ultimate price, obesity, diabetes, unhealthy, smoking, just an unhealthy lifestyle. I know that's a shock, but that's very real. And they're looking at it saying, well, we got to be smart about this. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. Love and hate. Raycons. Oh, yeah. What? I tell everybody, having a great pair of just an amazing set of earbuds is awesome. And in this day and age, when you're home and kids are running around and you're thinking to yourself, my God, it's driving me crazy. Self, what do I do? Raycons are what you do. Less than $100. The E25s every day. Every day. Earphones. I mean, these things are amazing. 6 hours of playtime. So you just plug them right in, take them out, put them in your ears, comfortable, snug, nice noise isolating fit, and seamless Bluetooth pairing. And what's just so amazing about these is the noise isolation, the fit. So when you're talking to somebody, like whether it's like a Zoom meeting or meetings, or you've got to go and do all of these phone calls, you're not going to hear craziness and chaos, and they're going to be able to hear you. And there's no dangling wires or stems, so when people are looking at you and you got that dangling wire stem, trust me, you're going to love these. Love these. Start well under $100, and I'm going to save you some more money right now. Simple, go to buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. You save 15%. Buyraycon.com/Chad, buyraycon.com/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
I'm exhausted.
If you're part of the politically exhausted majority, don't fear. Your time to be validated and rejuvenated is here. Wake up. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Everybody's got a dream vehicle. They want to get to that dream vehicle as fast as possible, including, well, this person.
It might be a medical issue, if not an impaired driver, but it seemed a little worse than a normal impaired driver. So I turned my overhead lights on and got no reaction from the car. I hit my siren and the car did immediately pull over to the left. I approached the vehicle and I was expecting to find somebody who needed an ambulance or paramedics, and it was pretty clear when the window came down that it was a young, very underage driver who was behind the wheel.
Yeah. Little bit younger than you would expect, even for a crazy story. Producer Anthony sends this to me yesterday. He's like, dude, I don't believe it. It's impossible. It's a Utah trooper right there. Doesn't sound like he's blowing smoke. And it's all over the place. I wonder how old he was.
Was not expecting to find what I found. The young man was there. He was sitting on the front edge of the seat so that he could reach the brake pedal to keep the car stopped while I was standing there. I helped him get the car into park and shut the vehicle down and then contact his parents. We had them come out to the scene, and they took custody of the boy.
How old was he?
He was 5 years old. Appeared at first, I thought he might be 8 or even 9 years old. He insisted he was 5, and his family confirmed he's 5 years old.
5 years old, on his way out to purchase a Lamborghini. That's right. 5-year-old looking for a Lamborghini. You got to go, right? Sometimes you just got to make that move.
He was upset. He was on the verge of tears. He told me initially that he was going to his sister's house. I asked him if he knew where his sister lived. Yes. Where does she live? California. He told another trooper that he wanted to buy a Lamborghini when he got there. And he showed a wallet with $3.
Yeah, he's probably not going to get a Lamborghini. Now, he could have stopped here in Phoenix. Scottsdale has Lamborghini dealership. Or you could have gone to Wilshire Boulevard in Beverly Hills, where they too have a Lamborghini dealership. Or he could have gone to San Diego, which would have probably been a better path, where he could have went and purchased a Lamborghini. I don't know what they cost. Let's take a look at the cost of a Lamborghini. You could probably pick up a used one for a solid 6 figures, I'm going to assume. So, but outside of that, I think the newer ones go just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I mean, not a lot, but enough. The new Aventor S Roadster, fully loaded, or MSRP. So, depending on which, if you want just the base model, you're going to pay $467,000. Fully loaded, it's probably going to run you about $560K. He had $3. He was a little short. But hey, cojones for trying, brother. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Feel free to tweet at me. We need to laugh on this day. We need to laugh on all days, right? That's what makes us better. You know what else makes us better? Sleep. Lots of it. MyPillow's doing something amazing. They got a buy one, get one free on everything. They've switched their production line over to a PPE line. They're making masks and whatnot for all of the healthcare workers. So they want to open up their area which they store stuff, and so they're giving you a buy one, get one free opportunity. Now is the time to strike while it's hot. You name it. It's buy one, get one free. 60-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty, made right here in the U.S. of A. You will love their stuff. I love it. You will. On the way out, so you go to MyPillow.com, use that promo code Benson. On the way out, if you order Mike Lindell's book, he's going to throw it free shipping and a $25 gift card towards your next purchase. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. MyPillow.com, promo code Benson. Cinco de Mayo, little Taco Tuesday. Laugh a little bit. Watch a little TV that's funny. Get outside and enjoy the day. Have yourself a wonderful Taco Tuesday, Cinco de Mayo. We'll do it again tomorrow. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.